Hello, everybody. So I'm back again. So this romance of ours, this is the third short story we're sharing together called Arrant. Brief synopsis. So we are you know that one colleague you have in the office that you wonder what's up with this guy? What's this guy's deal? Why is he acting like that? And we have colleagues like that, friends like that, and we don't know the backstory to some of these people. So this is one of such stories where we're looking at a group of people working in an organization, and then a couple of them have backstories, but one of them has a peculiar backstory, and then it gets to play out in a certain meeting that they were all having, and then it has some very very serious consequences. So third story called Arrant. Sit back, enjoy, like, share, because I have a story to tell. Okay, so we start. Remember, short story Arrant. So 27 men sat clustered in a cluttered, smelly, air-steel room. They were all construction workers, all artisans. The setting was charged. Chairs were grating across the floor, being pushed back by angry men trying to get their points across. Their voices pitching, trying to drown out the opposing man, and their arms failing, stabbing and fisting in the air to punctuate their angry words. All this madness formed a backdrop to the leader of the group, sitting quietly in the midst of it all, forming a backdrop of his own in his near white albino skin amidst all the black men. He tried steering the meeting to order without raising his voice. He placated one coolie there, touched the sleeve of another one here, all in a bid to simmer the boil of the situation down to a respectable conversation. The debate, if there had ever been need for one, was a change in leadership. The union was doing just fine. Its members were the best at what they did. This allowed them to form a strong union and practically dictate their pay, and they shared responsibility as well as earnings equally. It was socialism at its finest, all formed with hearty thanks to the smug-faced, genteel-mannered albino man. Save for his skin pigmentation defect, none other in the bunch could match him in looks, education, skill, and charisma. He had come into the way of blue-collar life after careful thought and many, many years in academia. There was nothing he wanted more than anything else in the world than a just, equal, open society. He debated eloquently and fervently for it with his professors as a young postgraduate student studying philosophy, but was to find out that academia posed nothing exotic. It was the same with everywhere else. Someone always had an agenda, so he left. When he ditched the white collar for the blue, he considered the cloth. Training in a seminary, but after seeing sin being washed, rinsed, and repeated by the very practitioners and those called to serve God and mankind, he left. After he left the church, he rounded up a band of merry men, the artisans, and sold an ideal to them: no bosses, all equals in his contrived utopia. This was not to him a testament of empirical evidence to his thesis of a just world, or an escape from his previous life in the church which he had grown to hate, but more the expected outcome to all he had internalized. He had been very lucky to find willing disciples. He had taken up welding as a skill, and after many an arc eye and burnt fingers, he had become exceptional at it. As has been said before, there was no boss, only a leader, and equal pay for equal work. Equal pay for equal work was their slogan. Equal work was defined more as a willingness or an enthusiasm to toil, other than the actual hours put in. And although this ran a treacherous line, the arrangement ran amazingly as a marvel to a surprisingly seamless, well-oiled hum. Members took up extra hours for colleagues who called in sick and couldn't make it, checked on family members of colleagues when someone had to be out of town, and provided financial security whenever one had an ailment. So it was quite perplexing that on the back of this, that the group had wanted a change in leadership. Never come across the word before, but as egalitarian had been preached over and over to them by the leader, they began to question if it didn't mean change as well? Couldn't another leader from them foster egalitarian too? See it from a different light? Couldn't equal mean one is the same as the other? Couldn't another lead the same as the other? The leader, on the other hand, had become very accustomed to this life of being always sought after, always needed, either for skills or advice from his colleagues, and he had equated this for love. He, the leader, had gotten most of his enduring qualities from his father, save, of course, total lack of menaline. But unlike his father, he was not absolute. His father, a gentleman's gentleman, a carpenter's carpenter, had always had a way with people like no one else did. He was always immaculately dressed and just as dutiful in service, and as such, always in demand. So much so that it was remarkable when he had time for his family. His father's numerous engagements had the family living modest, comfortable, and with a little less love. Leader felt he had never really gotten love from his father. For you see, even though his father had been present, provided, and was caring, he being gone most of the time his little boy needed him provided the lad with insecurities, especially because of his skin defect. He either sought to fill his insecurities later on in life with as much attention as he could get. The boy envied his father. Him not being around made the boy feel like he was never enough nor perfect, and try as hard as he could, and he did try, he never did get his father's charisma, nor did he get over not having it. He blamed it on a host of things, but chiefly on his skin pigmentation. He felt like the sore thumb the other fingers curled away from so as not to damage it any further. It took a long time for him to temper this fury, and here it was again, sticking out. How dare they not want him as leader? He who left the lofty heights of academia to the lowly, dirty step of being an artisan. How dare they want to think for themselves? He had been at a height where he had written paper after paper to define this whole thought process for mankind. How dare they not love him? This squall was rising to a tempest in him as he stared at his main opponent to his cemented position as being leader. The leader of the dispute was a short, stocky man with crude attributes, and he moved to sit opposite him. He spoke with a gruff voice and had this annoying attitude of gesticulating and tugging hard on anyone closest to him whenever he spoke. You will be quiet, the albino man said to the short one as Letta shifted around in his chair, arguing for new leadership. Gesticulating and patting hard on the shoulders of those closest to him, the stocky man strove to drive home his point. All the moving in the room now had both men sitting across from each other, staring the other down. All the moving in the room now had both men sitting across from each other, staring the other down, with only a little table between them. The true battle line had now been drawn. On each opposing side wasn't ideals, ideas, or politics, but egos spotting each other head on. To the albino man's demand, the short man spoke louder and gesticulated harder. You will be quiet, came the order again. I will not suffer barbarians. With that, the albino man lifted up a heavy-set, large torque spanner, idling by his side, and struck his opposition forcefully right down the center of his skull to a spray of blood. With this swift action, a modification to the 27 men sat clustered in a cluttered, smelly, ill-aired room at the beginning could be rendered thus: 26 men clustered in a cluttered, smelly, still-aired room. Only one sat, and another lay dead. The unopposed leader then said to the aghast 25 that remained alive, "What shall we do with the body?" The end.